to bring to you today our devotional for our Bible reading plan as we journey through Scripture this year. And honestly, Daniel is the book we're in, and Daniel is one of my favorite heroes in the Bible, just a man of character. We get to see his life really from the age of a young man when he's taken into captivity. And scholars say that these chapters we're covering today, chapters 10 through 12, he would have possibly been a man in his 60s, an older man. We see Daniel as a man who was faithful to the Lord throughout his lifetime. And I know Doug covered a big portion of Daniel in our last devotional. And so if you haven't watched that, check back so that you can really hear about the beginning of this book. But as we wrap up the book in chapters 10 through 12, the word that comes to my mind in these three chapters is perseverance. Like I said, we've been able to have a glimpse of Daniel through his life, and we see a man of character who has persevered through some trials, tribulations, being thrown in the lion's den, but we've seen him stay true to his faith in the Lord and trusting the Lord, our God. And just the chapter before this, chapter 9, we find Daniel praying earnestly. He is pouring out his heart to the Lord and begging the Lord to intercede on behalf of his people. God has given Daniel the spiritual gift of the ability to discern prophetic dreams and visions. And so Daniel has the privilege to bring this word to his people. And some of what Daniel prophesied has already taken place. We can look at history and see that some of the things that Daniel talked about have happened. Other things that Daniel was able to prophesy have not happened yet, and that is the end times. And we see some of his prophecies right here as he wraps up the book in chapters 11 and 12. And what an overwhelming opportunity it is for him to bring these words to people, to both people then and to us today. But we see Daniel earnest in prayer. The first thing I want to point out as far as perseverance is that Daniel began praying, and we see that in the beginning of chapter 10, from the moment Daniel began to pray, the Lord heard his prayer and acted on his behalf. However, because of spiritual warfare, the answer to Daniel's prayer was held up for 21 days. And what an interesting nugget we see in Scripture today. But church family, I want to encourage all of us to persevere in prayer, because we don't know what God's doing. We don't know what's going on in the heavenly realms, but we do struggle against the spiritual forces in the heavenly realms. Our struggle is not against the things on this earth, but it's against the spiritual realm. And our God is moving and acting on our behalf. And so I want to encourage us to persevere in prayer like we see in Daniel's life. And then the second thing that we see is he does talk about tribulation. He does talk about the end times. And it would take a much longer video for us to unpack all of that. But we know that perseverance is necessary on this earth as we endure trials, as we endure tribulation. And as there are things to come that are going to be difficult in this life. But we know the ending. We know that our God has overcome. We serve a God of victory. And just like Daniel stood firm in his faith and persevered, we have that opportunity to do that as well. And so, church family, I want to encourage you to be like Daniel and persevere through prayer and persevere in times of tribulation. Love you all. Can't wait to see you back in our church.